Days. It was nice. Good rest, relaxation, get away. It's nice. Good to get back though.
All right, let's begin.
Do you expect everybody to be here today, or any missing, and excused?
The only one that won't be here today is Cam. He's been traveling with the new baby and everything. He's been going back and forth to Dallas and spending time there. And they're just obviously this time of year there's weather and flight issues and different things of that nature. So he's the only one that won't attend today.
Cam Robinson.
Yes,
Oh, we got numbers.
Cam.
Will.
Yeah.
Good, right.
We got
Two
a
Cams now.
bunch of the same names.
He's a cow baby. He is a baby.
He is a baby. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well said. So, I gotta ask you aware of the lawsuit that was filed over the weekend about Brandon McManus? And just kind of give us an idea of your reaction when you heard about it.
Yeah, I saw the article that came out. Obviously disappointing to hear the news that took place. Other than that, honestly, being that it's a legal matter at this time, can't really comment until more information is gathered.
But that's the first.
That's the first I've heard of it. Yes,
Anything else?
correct.
I know you don't want to answer, but it alleges that this was like some party scene going on the flight. Is that accurate, or is that not what that flight looks like going up there?
I mean, a typical flight is not that way. It's a business trip. It's a business trip, and that's how we approach it from an organizational standpoint. From the league standpoint. So, for that, when I read that, that part of it's disappointing.
Doug, was Brandon released because of performance? Is that anything to do with this? Why was he released?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One, performance. I mean, that's obviously in this business. Whether it's a coach or a player, it's performance driven, right? Then you start talking about contracts and the amount of contracts and the number of the dollars and cents that go into it a little bit, the age of the player. I mean, there's a lot of things that can factor into, and the fact that, it's a position that it's a key position. It's critical. It's valuable because it gives us as a team points, on the board or not. And then if we have an opportunity to draft somebody, looking forward, then we take advantage of that. So, I think there's several factors, and not just in this case, in Brandon's case, but I think that's the same way with any position that we look at.
But at the time you made that decision, you guys didn't know anything about this? Or
None
you
of
did?
this, no,
Okay.
right.
How is the seating done on like that flight to London, or is staff separate from players, or is it kind of-
And I'm not going to get into a ton of those questions, right now until again more information. But we sit down. I'll just maybe a brief comment. Yeah, we do sit down and we want to make sure that the players are together and the coaches together, staff's together, and things of that nature, and everybody's comfortable and has space.
Mac Jones, you spent a little bit of time for him here in Jacksonville since trading for him. What has your encounter with Mac been so far, and what do you think about him as a player?
He's the ultimate pro. He's done a great job since he's been here. Spending time, studying the offense, getting caught up, in the offense. You can see why. I mean, I liked him coming out of college. When looking at quarterbacks back then, and we're excited to have him. It gives us a great room, with he and CJ as kind of, competing in that role. And he's done a nice job. He throws a really good ball. He's smart. He's eccentric. He's can be a little quirky at times. You see him out there on the field doing some different things. But that's the joy and the fun I think that he wanted to get back to a little bit, and he's done a great job for us.
Getting some of the pressure off a guy. I mean, for him coming home, kind of set a guy free to where they can develop to where people thought he'd be.
Yeah, I think it can. I think change of scenery sometimes is good, for players, for coaches, and for him to get back here around family, friends, and has been good for him. And I think he's embraced it, since he's been here.
When you let Mike go, was the search for a new DC, was it like a blank canvas for you, or did you kind of have Ryan in mind, or how did what
Yeah,
brought
it was
you to
kind of both. You know, it was a blank canvas from the standpoint of how obviously knowing the defensive personnel and the way I think the way the league has. We're spending so much time with four. You can call yourself a base 3-4 defense, but you're really a 4 down front because of the so much nickel offense and nickel defense that's on the field, and so for me it was finding the right fit, the right person. Ryan was in Atlanta, and unfortunately Arthur Smith was let go, and so he was a candidate that was available, and definitely had piqued my interest based on his career, where he had been, who he had worked with and for, and Coach Payton in New Orleans and coaching the D-line, and we feel like that's a strength of ours, obviously here, and so he was somebody that I wanted to talk to.
Okay, so was it about the scheme that he might bring, or was it just the idea that he might bring out whatever potential you had on your roster, he was going to bring it out?
Both, because if you look at where he was in New Orleans and the where they ranked defensively when he was there, and then when you look at what he did in Atlanta, the quick turnaround defensively he did in Atlanta, then you say scheme, right? But your scheme only works if you got the right guys, right, and you got the right players, and I think that was also enticing for Ryan to come here to Jacksonville as well because of the type of players that we had that would fit his scheme.
I know Ryan last week wouldn't really comment on some of the younger guys, especially in the secondary, because he said he's trying them at that nickel spot on the outside. Like you said, you knew the personnel here and you felt there was a match. Particularly, was it the fact that he runs more dime, more quarters? Was it because you have young guys like Antonio Johnson, the Christian Braswell, Buster Browns of the world? Was there like a specific point of emphasis that you said this is a match?
Obviously, youth helps, but I think the fact that when I talked to Ryan and when I talked to and interviewed all the different candidates that we did, the development, right? The development of our roster and everybody on the roster was something that was intriguing to me, and that's something that we needed to address, we needed to fix, and that's not just on that side of the ball. It's offense as well, and so I think listening to these candidates, these coordinators talk about the development and what they do, what they can do with young players, and how they can get them to perform, again, is very intriguing and very sort of the alignment for me, and it's no different than myself being able to develop quarterbacks, being around quarterbacks and things of that nature. So that part of it, I think the development aspect of it was the biggest key for me.
How many guys did you actually talk to, by the way? I forgot to ask that.
How many was it? 8?
It's like 6 or 8, yeah.
Something like that. Don't quote me on that.
At least a half dozen, is that
Let's
fair?
call it half a dozen. The Bakers.
What he went through last year, where have you seen the most growth from Trevor? Not necessarily like physically.
Yeah, no, physical we know about. We gotta keep him healthy, but mentally, I think the number one. I think the way he leads this football team, he's becoming the vocal leader in the locker room, on the field, in meetings. He's engaging. When we got him 3 years ago, he was just learning our system and kind of quiet and just trying to go through, the motions a little bit of just trying to adapt to us and get a feel for us. But now he's engaging. Now he's giving us ideas. Now he's giving us suggestions and ideas and really becoming another, a coach, a set of eyes, on the field. And that's just his growth. That's just his development as a quarterback and not changing a lot, schematically and keep, repetition goes a long way and utilizing that repetition to benefit, your football team. And that's where Trevor's really taken, I think, the next step, for us. Now it's got to translate on the field, right? And into wins and losses and touchdowns versus INTs and stuff like that. But that's where I've seen the biggest growth, I think, in the few years that we've been together.
Did it take, is he behind schedule on that and what you had hoped, or what it normally takes?
No, I mean, look, it's. I learned this back when I went to Green Bay as a player under Mike Holmgren. He always taught us, that it takes 3 to 4 years. It takes that time to develop into the quarterback that you want to become or you want for your team, and it's just not an overnight deal. It's not a plug and play deal, and some teams, some guys are going to have success, but there is that just understanding the game and learning the game and studying the game, and so for Trevor, he's now into that 3rd year with us, and so that part, I think for us, that's the encouraging part as an offensive staff, especially myself, just now going into that 3rd year, and this is kind of that jump year that he can have, moving forward.
I'm sorry. To what extent has the kicking competition, what have you been able to do between Cam and Riley, and kind of where does that stand right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're giving them equal opportunity, on the field. Each one, when we have kicking days, they're getting equal shots, whether it's the field goals or kickoffs, things of that nature. Again, it's yes, it's competition, but at the same time, we're getting everybody some work and seeing where they are. Both guys have done a great job. Cam obviously is still, we're still learning him and what he can do, but he's got some leg talent, and so does Riley, and it'll be interesting once we get into camp to see where it plays out.
And does Riley still kind of have the accuracy that he always has at this point? Pederson.
Accuracy.
Yeah. Does he look?
He looks great.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks good. He's making all. I mean, they make some, they miss some. Not so worried about in May, but in September and October becomes an issue. But yeah, he's doing a nice job.
Talking about Trevor's growth, where do you see that on the field as a coach? Is that are you still more at the line, decision making once the play starts, everything?
It's kind of all of it. Decision making, balls coming out of his hand faster, quicker decisions. All that part of it. Accuracy, the timing, things of that nature. And again, just the dialogue we're having out there as maybe CJ and Mac are taking their rep. He's back there talking to myself or press, Mike, and just always engaging. And that's what you want to see out of your own quarterback.
The NFLPA has proposed tweaking OTAs as early as next year, getting rid of some of the spring stuff and expanding training camp. Can you see pros and cons of that? Would you be in favor of that?
Yeah, just to see how in the direction they want to go. The off season's great to kind of build a foundation, and really see your young players, and it goes back to the developmental piece, of your young guys. And this is the time where you want to start that foundation. The players probably wouldn't like training camp, being extended, but it's long enough as it is. But look, anything that we do, if it helps the game, and if it helps better the game, and it's moving the game forward, I'm all for that.
Does an 18-game schedule move the game forward?
For the fans?
For the players?
Well, I
Coaches?
mean, it's more exposure, it's more opportunities. There's more money, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's moving it forward. I think there would be a lot of dialogue around that, but it definitely headed in the right direction.
Hey, Doug,
Okay, we have time for a couple more.
You're working Gabe Davis back a little bit, but do you expect to see him out a little more the next 3 weeks, or are you going to hold him off until training camp?
Yeah, we're gonna go slow with him. He worked in last week. He's gonna work in some more today. Just kind of keeping him out of the team stuff at this juncture. Just don't want to get tangled up or something to happen out there. But a lot of the individual stuff, he's getting a lot of work with Trevor right now, which is good. So we're just gonna go slow with that one.
Same with Eric, and then also I know Roy was also working on the side.
Yeah, they're working off to the side. Just don't want any setbacks. It's early, and these are veteran guys that know how to play, know how to work. Other than probably Gabe getting some timing with Trevor, we're just gonna pump the brakes.
And then Foye had the non-contact penny on last week. Was that from something during the off-season? Is he good to
His
go?
wrist,
Okay.
he had the off-season deal with his wrist, so yeah.
What would you like to see from Tank Bixby into his second year? How would you like him to evolve as a running back now?
Got it in. I'll tell you this: Tank's done a great job going into year 2. Tank's a smart player. I think for him now it's just understanding what he is seeing, particularly in the run game. Anticipating where the hole's going to be, maybe anticipating. Because it's like a movie screen, right? And that movie screen is constantly moving and it's changing, and so for him, it's being able to see that and react. And then again, kickoff return, getting him back there. You saw late in the season last year, we had him back there on some returns, and he did a nice job there. And keep that growth and development going with him. But he's done a really nice job. He's a hard worker. He practices extremely fast, which I love, and eager to get the pads on and see what he can do.
Last one here. What are your thoughts on the NFL allowing guardian caps and the push for safety in that regard?
I think the guardian caps are a good addition, especially in training camp when we're in pads. It does protect against the head concussions and things like that, and has reduced some of those injuries. Obviously proposing that they can use them in games and things of that nature. I think it's a player preference at that point. I don't know what that would necessarily look like on a player in game, but look, it's all about player safety, and that's one thing that the league has been big on, and we've been big on supporting that, and you don't have a league if you don't have players, and we got to keep our players healthy, and that's a big part of it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
They got TVs in there.
President, what does a step forward in year 2 look like for Anton after all the experience and stuff he got last year? What does the next step look like?
Yeah, I think there's a level of confidence that you expect to see from a guy that played the whole season, and just you saw his confidence grow from week 1 through week 18, and just understanding what each week looks like. Because I think that's one of the biggest things, especially for young guys. They're used to their season kind of ends around Thanksgiving. Well, we're in the middle of our season right then. There's a long push. Each week is this new set of challenges. So you face that, you overcome a lot of that, you continue to grow. Now you know what to expect in year 2. So you expect to just see that confidence, walk around with a little bit more swagger, approach each week a little bit, kind of just more understanding what's coming.
What about the guys who didn't get the confidence like that? When you look at Tank and Brenton,
Yep.
your second and third round picks, guys who maybe didn't contribute like Anton.
Right.
How do you get them to maybe take that next step?
Well, I think a lot of it, you see just the way they're practicing now. Of this time last year, they're swimming. I mean, some guys were coming off injury from their college career to wherever they were throughout the offseason program for us. You're trying to figure everything out. How does the NFL work? How does this practice pace move? What's the offense look like? What's my role in this particular play? To where now in year 2, they know it. They know their split. They know their alignment. They know their adjustment. They're able to play a lot faster. So you see a little bit more of that skill set you probably saw when they were in year 4, year 5 of college, and they understood the system inside and out. So you see a lot of that. Now, the game reps are invaluable. So some guys got a lot of that. Some guys didn't get as much of that. But the expectation, the confidence they carry on the practice field, you're hoping that extends over to the game field whenever the time comes for that.
Russ, do you have any regrets with how Tank's usage went in year 1 on the field?
Yeah, I mean, we would have liked to say we'd get more usage, more opportunity for Tank as the season went. Looking back, there's a lot of things that we probably could have done better. Obviously, the goal is not to go 9-8, especially each year we've done that. So you look at a lot of things, you try to be as critical as anything, as everything that you can be. And how do we utilize every single player available to us on game day? I think there's things that Tank could have provided that we maybe didn't give him opportunities to, or maybe we're quick to give Travis another rep on something that probably Tank could have done well for us. But you live, you learn, you grow from it, and you adapt moving forward. And I think Tank's in a great headspace in terms of where he goes into year 2, and we're looking to get the most out of him as well.
What are you seeing out of Brian Thomas so far?
Brian's done a great job. I mean, Brian's what we expected. He's long, he's fast, he's smart. And so those things have shown up just early on of getting him involved. He's spending a lot of meeting time with Chad, and being around Christian, being around Gabe, who not necessarily knows our system, but knows the NFL and what things are going to look like. I think it's been really good for him. You know, you see obviously the intelligence and the quick twitch and the long speed show up throughout, you know, our practices right now as we go through things, or even routes on air. He grows every single day. He's a guy that's very easy to communicate with, just because he is intelligent. Things come naturally to him. Football, I think, comes naturally to him, of just learning, picturing concepts, understanding routes, how we're attacking certain coverages. So you see his growth every single day, which is fun to see.
How do you assess the competition, at least what you think in your mind is of it on the offensive line? Is left tackle a little bit more up in the air than other spots? I mean, what's your vision of it right now?
Right now, it's kind of just, we're trying to create an identity of who we envision ourselves being within the scheme. It's a little tougher to have position battles right now when things aren't very physical, because that's obviously an element that we value, or we'd like to value even more moving forward as an offensive unit. So that's something that's kind of taken out of the offseason program a little bit. So right now you're looking for understanding, you're looking for the details, you're looking for some urgency, but that physical piece is kind of the element that misses throughout the offseason that we're trying to kind of take our time with as we move forward. And you'll get a little bit more preview of that through training camp, obviously preseason games, as these things continue on.
With new faces.
Talking about with Trevor and his growth and all that other stuff that you heard. Have you seen it where have you seen maybe his biggest strides?
I think just that full-on ownership of our system. I mean, he understands, too, what we're trying to accomplish in the offseason and putting in plays. So he understands we're putting in our schemes. We're in install 4 now. The defense is in install 4. These plays aren't aligned to we're attacking a certain coverage. So you're seeing a little bit of growth of he's quick to find a check down. He's quick to move on in a progression because this isn't the coverage this is built for. So you see a little bit of that. And then you see the way he communicates with the guys around him. Hey, I need you at this depth, at this spot, on this timing, because I'm getting to you as the 4th read or the 3rd read or the 1st read. So I need a little bit more. So just, you know, it's kind of trying to get him to take over more and more and more, and I think that's coming naturally for him. Partially year 3 in the system, year 4 in the NFL, just working with young guys around him. Understanding what communication each guy needs is a big part of playing quarterback.
With new faces at 2 of your top 3 receivers, does this installation phase change? I know last year you were talking about continuity and how you were able to build off the year before. Are you maybe starting from the ground and moving forward this time?
Yeah, we always try to. That's kind of always the phase. You teach it through phase 1. You get a chance to do it in phase 2 where it's just us on air. And now we're into phase 3. Now there's a little bit of competition where there's a defense across from you. You're having to adjust to things on the fly, potentially post-snap. So I don't know if it's necessarily changed in terms of how we've done this throughout the course of 3 years. But, you know, we're certainly pleased with where these guys are. It's obviously tough. You know, Gabe's coming off an injury, new to the system. You get Brian inserted at the end of phase 2, trying to get into a system. So they're still probably early on through their understanding the installs and things like that, as opposed to year 1, where most of our guys were free agents. We're here from the very, very beginning of this thing to hit the ground running.
Russ, does it matter to you who's calling plays?
No. I mean, ultimately, winning is all that matters to us. And however we get to that point, we're all for.
In terms of game planning and play calling, what were the differences for you personally from 2022 to 2023?
In terms of game planning, there was really no difference. You know, obviously we had Nick Holst was here as a pass game coordinator as opposed to Jim Bob Cooter, so there were some different ideas working our way through. But I thought, you know, you kind of hit your stride as that thing gets going through the middle of the season. Everybody gets real comfortable in what the expectations are each day, each meeting, whether that's just coaches, players, whatever that is. And then in terms of play calling, it was really just, you know, I was able to move around the call sheet a little bit of things that caught my eye a little quicker. But in terms of communication with coach and the other coaches on the headset, Trevor throughout the week, throughout the game, none of that changed necessarily.
Early impressions of Mitch Morse, what has he brought?
Mitch, I mean, there's definitely that veteran presence of this is a guy that's very confident in who he is, what he's done. You see that show up from the way he handles himself in the huddle to also the meeting room. And that's one of the things that he's not afraid to speak up and ask a question, where some young guys that are new to a system are, you know, they're probably going to wait till a meeting ends, go grab a coach on the side. Hey, you said this. What'd you mean by that? Mitch will stop a meeting, make sure he's on the same page of what the coach is expecting, because sometimes you go quickly through these things because you look around, there's a lot of familiar faces in a room. Guys have heard this, or guys know, okay, he's talking about 2022 week 3, this happened, blah, blah, blah. We kind of gloss over some things where Mitch, hey, what do you mean by this? We'll pull up a clip, we'll all watch it together, make sure we're all speaking the same language. That's the biggest thing, is everybody, I mean, football hasn't really changed over the course of many years, but each offense kind of has their own language. How quickly can we get everybody onboarded with our language? What does it sound like for us? When you say this, what does this mean? And make sure we all speak that same language. So Mitch has done a great job of getting himself up to speed with that.
Does having Nick and Jim Bob in the division force you to tweak more than you would normally tweak in an offseason?
Not necessarily. I think a lot of that is there's a certain level of paranoia that a lot of coaches deal with, and that's natural. Absolutely. So there's certain things, but we always kind of sit there and we'll talk. Hey, this player's on this team we just played, and okay, what are they really going to say? What will they know that we like to do this? Well, unless they hear the call in the huddle, they don't necessarily know that. Now it's on us to understand our tendencies, the issues within our offense, the way we communicate verbally, non-verbally, to make sure we're not giving away anything. But no, I mean, it's great to see those guys go on to bigger, better things as well.
Like you noted, Press, obviously disappointing to go 9-8 for a second consecutive season. Did that maybe up the ante to completely not tear things down, but say we need to start with a blank canvas and start from scratch with designing this offense?
Yeah, it certainly did. And again, I don't think we tore everything down, but we probably took it to the studs and looked at it from the very beginning of what have we been good at? What have we struggled with? And then trying to be really critical. Why have we struggled with this? Is this something that we've, from the beginning of our building the scheme, the terminology, what we're asking you guys, to what we're putting on game plans, to what we're calling in games? Does all of this make sense? Is it all learnable, digestible? And so trying to be very critical of that, because our goal is to win, not to go 9-8, not to be close, not to be a fringe contender. That's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to win. And so how can we help ourselves get there? And then look at throughout the offseason, throughout training camp, how can we see growth in these things? Because there's a lot, like we mentioned earlier, there's just a physicality that you lack through the offseason. So if we're asking our guys to be physical, but we can't do it in this time, what are the things that we're going to hold them accountable for and try to get better at through this time?
How much was verticality something that needed to be improved?
That's a big part of it. I mean, you have to be explosive in this league. It's tough enough being consistently efficient. We want to be able to have that explosive element to us. And I think that was something, even if you go back and look at our run game for 2 years probably hasn't been as efficient as we've wanted it to be. But I think even year 1 in this system, we were explosive. So we were able to kind of counteract that a little bit, where year 2, for whatever reason, that kind of fell off for us. And so that's something in the run game definitely that we're looking at to improve upon, but also in the pass game. Give guys opportunity to catch it on the move, making sure we're attacking all aspects of the field and all aspects of the defense.
What's the most paranoid thing you ever did as a coach?
Oh, man. Well, I work, not necessarily me personally, but I worked for Frank Reich. Frank Reich had spent a lot of time with Peyton Manning. It was a Peyton thing that Frank was paranoid every building we were in was bugged. So if we had a pregame staff meeting day of, we had to go in, you turn the showers on, make some noise. He was just scared of everything, because Peyton was scared of everything, I guess. Or they thought somebody was listening at all times. And right, wrong, and different, I don't know. But, there were some battles that Peyton was a part of that maybe that happened or not. I don't know.
Doug, how paranoid is he?
I wouldn't say Doug's super paranoid. Doug's pretty laid back, pretty relaxed. I think a lot of us found Frank's paranoia pretty funny. But
talking about the verticality of the offense, Trevor Lawrence throws a great deep ball. Do you think you have the receivers on the outside this year that will do a good job to kind of capitalize on some of the opportunities that he's given receivers over the years?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously having Brian's length and speed is a big thing. That was obviously a strength of his throughout his college career with the numbers and all that, and then something Gabe has always brought. And you're not going to be a super high pass completion percentage if you're pushing the ball way down the field. And that's something we feel like we've done a good job when we've called the play action stuff. We've been particularly explosive when you look at our numbers in terms of concepts that we've called and opportunities to push the ball. We've done a good job with that. And also Evan and Christian from the inside, working inside out, being able to get matched up on safeties at times, depending on the principles of the coverage, however that works. But we do feel like we have the people that we're able to push the ball down the field. We just got to be able to get the opportunities to do that, and we got to call those types of plays throughout the course of games.